After that Chicago game on Sunday, Keefe went into the dressing room tonight and he'd be like,
Okay, guys, show us what you got.
but I think he meant for all three periods. Welcome back to HockeyCast. My name is Mike, and tonight we're going to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Buffalo Sabres. So the Leafs win 6-3, but it could have been better than that. But first, let's talk about earlier in the game. So, and incidentally, I have my notes over here. So if you see me glancing over, I don't want to miss any details. So that's just where I'm looking to get a few points, and then I'll discuss them with you. So 4 minutes into the game, O'Reilly gets his first goal as a Toronto Maple Leaf. And then, I don't know, like a minute or minute and a half later, gets another one, his second goal as a Toronto Maple Leaf. The Leafs ended up scoring 4 goals before Buffalo even had one shot on the net. So they were off to a very dominant start right from the puck drop. They had their legs, they were skating hard, and they were hitting. They were finishing checks. They were just swarming Buffalo at every opportunity. And the skill was there, and the passes were crisp and on. They were chasing, and they were just completely overwhelming Buffalo. It was really good to see. I found myself at one point when they were scoring all them goals and just the plays they were making, and Buffalo hadn't even had a shot. I found myself laughing at times because it was awesome. But as we find out later, that was a little bit short-lived going into the third period, but we'll get there. So another point that I want to bring up is Achari and Aston-Reese. So when Achari got here, he brings a bunch of grit and fortitude, and he's hitting, and he's making good, smart plays. And I think he dragged Aston-Reese back into the fight, because there was a time when Aston-Reese was coming in and he was hitting and he was being physical and he was challenging players. But then he lost that somewhere along the line. But with Achari coming in, it reinvigorated Aston-Reese, and it really showed tonight when they were playing. Aston-Reese was finishing his checks, and what a combination that is on that line to have Achari and Aston-Reese just going out there and just clobbering everything in sight. It was really good to see, and I think when the playoffs roll around this year, I think Tampa's going to be in for a surprise with the physicality of those players that Toronto has added to the team. And hopefully they can still add one more piece before the deadline. If we could get a defenseman like a Luke Schenn or somebody, Luke Schenn's $800K, he would fit perfect on the blue line. And it would create a lot of depth and just more grit. And I think that would really be enough to put the Leafs over the top against Tampa. In the second period, Buffalo made some adjustments to the way the Leafs were playing in the first, and they started getting a few shots. And, everything was going okay for them in the first half of the second. But then Toronto managed to get the momentum back towards the latter half of the second period. And moving into the third, Buffalo again making some late period adjustments, and they found themselves scoring some goals. A few, I think at least 2 Samsonov should have had, where the wingers are coming down the side on the outside, and they just pulled Samsonov away from the post a bit and just pulled him out of position. And it was just, he's got to have those, but at the same time, the Leafs have to recognize that they have to keep the foot on the gas. They can't let up. They have to play to the final whistle. And they always have a habit of doing that, right? And everyone talks about their killer instinct. But but I think they get that way because it's not a very meaningful game. Yeah, sure, the first period or two, it was, all about points and just lighten up the lamp. But then in the third period, it's a real mental struggle to stick with it and to stick with the same play and momentum that got you in this position to begin with. So, and that being said as well, every team in the NHL has elite players. The only difference between the top half of the NHL and the bottom half is the bottom half of the league. They just haven't figured out how to put the games together consistently. And that's why they're in the bottom. They're learning. And a few more pieces and they'll, flourish. But any team in the NHL can win on any given night. So, don't let that fool you that, the Leafs struggle against bottom half teams. Yes, to a point, but you got to realize every team has elite players in the NHL. So it's all about consistency for them. That's the only reason they're in the bottom. So, I don't put too much weight behind that. I put more weight on the Leafs, just consistent effort from start to finish. That's the biggest thing, consistent effort. We know they can play at a high level. We've seen that, and we've seen flashes of it before, but it was dominant there tonight in the first two periods. Even when Buffalo came back and adjusted in the second, the Leafs still managed to adjust again and take over the game. And now, some of that has to do with determination, and it's on the players, but it also has to do with the coach and the matchups and things like that. So Keefe has taken notes, and as long as he can make the correct decisions when it counts and get the right lines out, then we should prevail coming into the playoffs. And my final point, 2 points is 2 points at the end of the day. If you want to look at other teams, there's a lot of other teams in the upper half of the league that are in contention for the cup that they lose to the bottom half of the league as well on any given night for one reason or another. It's just how it goes. 82 games in the season. It's a long season. So you're going to have nights where you're tired, you're lethargic, you're sore, you're beat up a bit. And then you'll have nights like tonight where everything's going good. You're feeling good about yourself. The team's playing well. There's chemistry, but they just got to be able to find that extra gear in the third when it counts most. And like I said, it's the mental side. Now I'm flip-flopping back and forth here a little bit, but a lot of it is the mental side of the game. And now Toronto needs to learn how to break through that mental toughness or achieve mental toughness by breaking through those barriers. Forget about the past. Don't worry about the past. You can't do anything about it now, but you can dictate and rewrite your future. So they just have to blast through that. And I think with O'Reilly coming in, it'll be a huge help when they're up against it and in those critical moments. And he's been there and he's got a lot of experience. So I think he brings a lot to the table, a lot more than what fans give him credit for. Because I've seen comments online about O'Reilly and saying, he's past his prime. He's not going to be any good of an addition to the Leafs. But I think they're mistaken. And I think he may be the difference maker that puts him over the top this year. At least to get back past the first round. So that being said, that could be a whole video in itself. And maybe I'll make a video about that. We'll talk about going into the playoffs when we get a little bit closer. There's 24 games left. The next game is not till Friday, and that's at home against Minnesota. And then they go out on a road trip. So this is a rare weekend. This weekend on Saturday, they don't have a game, but then they play Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday all away. So that being said, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.